Welcome to Out of the Blue. I'm Andrew Ottman. MTSU's Disability and Access Center creates a level playing field in academics and campus life for almost 1,000 of our students. Here to tell us about this tremendous resource is the center's director, Kevin States. Well, Kevin, thanks for joining us on the show. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's have a conversation first with the very beginning. Okay. Tell us about the center. Describe it for someone that hasn't heard of it before and the services you offer.
Yeah, so we are the Disability and Access Center. We are located in the Keeley University Center 107, right across from the post office. And so what we do is we provide accommodations for students that self-identify and then just make a request, and we set up the accommodations as long as we have the appropriate documentation. The rules of the accommodations are not to alter the design of the course. They're supposed to be a level playing field and provide equal access, not an advantage or disadvantage.
And let's break that down a little bit deeper, because I teach a course and I've worked with the center to help some of my students. Sometimes that first outreach is from you to the professor, saying, identifying a student that has a special need. And what are some examples of the things that you would advise a professor to keep an eye on or to help?
In order for a professor to know for sure, unless the student self-identifies to the professor, is to get an accommodation letter from our office. And so how we set that up is we meet with the student, determine the accommodations, and we have a self-portal database that the student can make the request, and then once we approve, the letter goes to the professor. The professor will receive a letter from our office essentially once the student makes that, and the professor should then communicate with the student about arrangements. If there's any questions or concerns, professors should reach out to our office to discuss some accommodations, because we usually make accommodations based on general perspective and not usually one class. So sometimes it may say, hey, this accommodation, I don't know how it fits with this course, and those are things that we are glad to answer.
Terrific. You use the phrase a level playing field, and I think that's important. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So like level playing field is just not to provide an advantage for a student. The student has to show the same amount of work just like any other student. It just may be something such as more time on tests. It could be something like that may require some creativity. But an example may be where not level in playing field would be somebody like, oh, well, they don't put in the same amount of work or the same amount of effort, or if they didn't do well on a test, they may get to redo the test. Those are things that usually would be considered not being at the equal level playing field.
The center on your website describes itself also as a cultural hub. Walk us through that. What do you mean by that role that you provide?
Yeah, so the cultural hub to us means that disability is just like any other diversity initiative to us. And so we try to provide the information. We want other places to take disability as an initiative to equal playing field or equal access, maybe, and we try to provide information. So let's say there's an event going on and there's a student that needs an individual request. We can communicate to that event if it has to deal specifically with students, and we can definitely try to give advice on how to make that equal access instead of, us just strictly running it ourselves.
The Adaptive Technology Center flows through you guys. What is that and how does that help?
The Adaptive Technology Center is located in the library, 174. They're part of our office, and so what they do is they provide access for students in the technology field. So let's just say a student needs something in Braille. We can set that up. Let's say a student needed, like screen reading software that can read out loud, whether somebody with the processing, whether it's Braille or whatever the scenario is, or read out loud for, visually impaired or those kind of things. And we do a lot more than just reading software and those kind of things. But that's just a part of what they do, and they are located in the library 174.
How do students typically find out about you? I imagine that's one of your number one priorities, is making sure people know that you're there to help.
Yeah, so it is a good question, because students do have to self-identify with our office to get registered. And we still run into that, but we try to communicate whether it's on a syllabus for each instructor and try to make them aware about our office. We do a lot of outreach. We go to customs. We are always trying to communicate with professors. We try to communicate to students, but it's still a learning curve. We still get students register at the end of every semester. I didn't realize you guys existed, or those kind of things. But just in collaboration with many departments is our best way of getting out there.
Well, Kevin, can you describe some of the disabilities that the center helps address?
That's a great question. So our population, most people associate our office with mobility or physical or vision or hearing, and those are all still populations we serve. But our largest populations now are mental health, learning disability, ADD, autism, chronic illnesses type stuff. So we serve all types of disabilities. And so as long as it qualifies, we'll meet with the student and discuss if there's accommodation that we can help with those.
I would imagine one of the challenges that you have to overcome with those students sometimes is the associated and perhaps ill-placed stigma of approaching you. Walk us through the strategies you try to help folks overcome that.
Well, the first thing we do is communication through our front desk. If there's a student that does reach out, we do get that still. You know, we understand why it's a stigma. A lot of students sometimes are like, well, if I register with the Disability and Access Center, one, I will only be associated as a disabled student, or two, I'll get categorized and there's more to it, or maybe I'll be looked at differently. And so what we do is when we meet with students or when we communicate with students, is we're just saying kind of like, hey, this is just a level playing field. You still got to do the work just like anybody else. This is not providing you an advantage. And so most of the time when we meet with students, and we also explain that the students still can kind of have control over what they want to release to instructors or to folks, then they understand that, hey, okay, I still have control and I didn't realize that this is what it is. And honestly, we've seen a huge increase of students getting registered with our office. So like, I think more students are feeling more comfortable getting registered. I would say in the last 5 years, there's probably been about a 30 to 35% increase of students getting registered.
What's your population now? Who do you serve?
We are near 1,000 students. So about 5 years ago, it was usually around 6 to 650.
Okay. So where do I go to find out about what you offer, and how do I reach you to find out how you can help me?
Yeah, so the easiest way is if you go into our website, it's just mtsu.edu/DAC. And on the very front page is how to register, the very first one, front and center of the page. And just click on that link. There's an online application. It takes 10 minutes, give or take a few minutes to fill out. It's completely accessible. And then we just need the appropriate documentation. And once we get both, then we just set up an appointment. And we're flexible about how we do appointments. We have been more flexible about whether it's virtual or phone or in person. So we do various ways of meeting.
Kevin States, Director of the Disability and Access Center, thanks for joining us and telling us about these services.
Thank you for having us.